Hey kids, Jiu-Jitsu class, we hope this week's going well. Coach Tybor and I are just here to kind of go through some technique with you today, but we also encourage you guys to get some awesome exercise. I encourage you guys to still jog around your living room. I've seen videos of a couple kids already jogging around their living room, doing high knees, doing heel clicks, doing inside shuffle, and kind of just getting their workout that way. That's very important. It goes along with the solo drill video that we created. But yeah, one thing that Coach Tybor and I talked about that we want to challenge you to do is do some squats. Because what we see when we call out like 15s or 10s and you guys are doing your jumping jacks, your push-ups, your sit-ups, once you get to your squats, which are huge and fundamental in jiu-jitsu, like these are your wheels, man. These legs take you everywhere and they're very important. So you gotta know how to fundamentally do a good squat. And we see a lot of kids that come in here and they just don't know how to squat. So we're gonna talk about squats first before we give you your first challenge, okay? So a lot of squats that you guys are doing in the gym, kind of like, yeah, see how he's like off balance? Yeah, you're doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you talk.
Oh, well, I think a lot of us, maybe we get lazy, and squats can be difficult, so we don't want to go as deep as we should in the squat, and we hunch over too much, or we just have our balance off. Really, the main thing we need to do is just try to get a lower squat and to really work the muscles in the legs. And so when you're squatting down, a good idea is to try to pretend you're sitting down in a chair, and you really stick your butt out. And right now, as you'll see, I'm parallel with the ground and have a 90-degree angle. And your knees should just be right above your toes, and you come back up, and that's a full squat. But if I just come down, if I'm leaning over, it doesn't work the muscles in the same way, it doesn't work the glutes in the same way, and it's sort of a lazy squat. And sometimes it's tempting to be lazy, but it doesn't help us very much.
So yeah, so we want you guys to make sure that you're practicing your squats correctly. So Tybor's going to talk about, again, just one more time as we go through. We want to see 50 of them, okay? He's going to make sure his feet are like shoulder width apart. Right? He's got good posture right now. He's not going to bend over like he talked about. As he goes to sit down, he puts all his weight on his heels and he gets his butt low. His legs are at least parallel. His arms are out right now. You can have them out. You can have them on your collar. I think he likes to have them out, especially for kids. It's a little easier to keep your balance so you don't fall backwards. And then you come straight back up. Make sure your posture is up the whole time. So Coach Tybor and I's challenge for you is to be able to do 50 squats within this session. Okay? If you guys want to step it up, make sure you guys get it on video, okay, or that your parents vouch for you, whatever. Video is the best. If you guys want to step it up and go above 50, that would be awesome. Kind of have a contest, see who can do the most squats and do them properly, and really get some good game strength from this time out and off the mat. So yeah, that's our first challenge for you guys.
Hey everybody. So, especially when I'm watching in a kids class, I notice that we're having trouble breaking guard. Typically, if somebody pulls you into guard, you're going to stay there and they're going to work on submissions. It is difficult to break guard. It's a very basic component of jiu-jitsu, but it's also very difficult. Some people have longer legs and they're always trying to pull you down, and so it can be a little bit frustrating because you get in this position where I am and you're just kind of waiting for a spot, waiting to see if they'll let go, if you can escape, and it's difficult to break guard. It really is. But with time, certain things come out of your jiu-jitsu and you can see little details that make it easier to break somebody's guard. And I didn't really start breaking guard reliably until pretty recently. And there are just maybe a couple components that might help you out when you're trying to break guard, which you're going to have to learn how to do. It's just a matter of time before you're really comfortable doing it. Everybody knows the traditional knee slice pass. And that's fine. That's just when I'm trying to frame on my opponent's arms to try to deter his grips so that he can't pull me down as much. Everybody knows I scoot back on my hips and I get one of my knees in his tailbone. Okay, that creates a frame, and he can already feel the pressure on his guard. It's a bit more extended than he would prefer. He can probably still hold it, and now oftentimes when you're rolling, if you're going in positional sparring or live rounds, you might get here, but your opponent walks his hips back up or drags you back down, and now you're back where you were. And it's a lot of work. Okay, now you got to do it again, and it can be frustrating. I would tell you it's something you need to keep trying, even though you might get tired, and even though right now it doesn't seem like it's very fruitful. because eventually you'll get used to this kind of happening, and when your opponent pulls you down, well, that might happen, but I still have my wedge, I still have my knee in his hips, in his tailbone, and I can start to work up. As everybody knows, I try to work up and get maybe a pan grip here, and I place both my elbows on his thighs, maybe step out a bit with that back leg to open the space of his legs a bit more, and then sit back and put extra pressure on his guard. Oftentimes, we're doing the knee slice pass. Once this happens, I can get the knee up, put it on the thigh, and start to pressure into my opponent, cupping the tricep in this case. I keep my pressure down. I'm not up here, I'm down on my opponent to keep his weight down. Then I can transition to a side control of my preference. Really, one of the concepts that I use when I'm breaking guard now, I don't necessarily have to break the guard to pass the guard. So his legs form a loop right now. If I just get one of my knees into that loop, I'm usually pretty good and I can start to work an actual pass. Sometimes, if I'm more flexible, I can bring my knee up into his hip area, even though his guard is still closed. And at this point, it doesn't matter that his guard's closed, because I can pressure, I can work a back step and pass guard in this. And then sometimes with, say, like the hanger pass, if my opponent is really cinched up, I need to get one of my knees in this loop. But if he's really cinched up tight, there's no space for me to do that. I can help create the space by way of standing up after something of a hanger pass kind of fashion. Right? So I'm still framing, I'm still walking my hips up. My opponent has a tight guard, but if I start to walk up, there's a different kind of space and angle where now my knee fits better because there's a bit more space afforded to me from that position. And sometimes I don't even do the full hanger pass. I just stand up just so I can get my knee back down, or within that loop, then I can come back down. In this case, if I want to do a knee slice, I'll be going out this way. I'm doing a knee slice, or else I can also do sort of the staple thing. I still, instead of passing on the other side, I'm stapling here. I have his the loop of his guard more or less passed. I just have to bring my body through. So I really like this kind of pass and come into side control, and then I can work a Kimura grip or something of that nature. But really the key concept is just to get one of your knees inside of the loop of your opponent's guard. And you should really practice doing that in however number of ways that occur to you, not limited to a knee slice pass.
Is there a way that they can do this at home by themselves, like kid-wise, that would be helpful? Just to see, maybe let them see it without me there, what you kind of did.
Sure. Well, suppose you're just trying to block your opponent's grips. Of course, you're walking your hips out. The more you walk your hips out like this, the more space you're creating between your hips and your opponent's hips. And then at that point, if you can tuck in one of your knees real tight to your own chest, there's you're sort of helping to create a vacuum between the two spaces. So if your hips are farther out, bring the knee up tight to your chest, and now maybe you've had enough space to enter into one of your knees into the loop. In my opinion, this would be difficult to drill in solo because you need a lot of those reactions to really get a good feel for it.
Sure.
But those are some good concepts that eventually are going to make a lot more sense just intuitively because you'll have rolled enough to understand.
Nice. Cool. All right, let's do one more. I'll do this one. We're gonna do bottom of guard now. Tybor taught the pass, which hopefully you guys all know, and maybe like we talked about, that concept becomes a little bit more obvious, like you talked about. So the concept, of guard is just the opposite of what Tybor said. This person's gonna continuously try to break you down, trying to keep your guard. Anytime that wedge comes in, I'm trying to ride high and keep my guard, right? Okay. So one thing that we were working is either submissions or sweeps, right? Sorry, two things. We're going to work on just the sweep right now. And one of the main ones that kids know is that hip bump sweep, okay? And that comes from that Kimura. It doesn't have to always come from the Kimura. A lot of times it can come from Tybor's posture, which is what we're going to work today. So, like I said, it comes from the Kimura where we practice swimming out, getting the grip, sitting up, getting the Kimura, and then going for my sweep. If we're practicing even doing this movement at home, okay, it's not going to come from setting up a Kimura. It's going to come from just posting and sitting up and hugging the arm, right? The idea is that Tybor's posturing, okay? And I'm gonna come up with him, whether I had a grip and trying to break him down and he went up and I came up with him. Let's turn this a little bit. Okay? And I came up with him. Now I wanna take one of the table legs away, hugging the arm like this. I have to come all the way up to my hand. Okay? Notice as I sat up, if my guard opened, put my feet down and my knees still pinch. If my legs are loose, Tybor is going to start to do his path. Look at, he brought that knee up just like we talked about. So, if my guard opens, I pinch my knees really tight. I come from my elbow up to my hand, hugging really tight so he can't get this post. Now, most importantly, I have to bridge my hips. This is part of the, what it's called. It's called the hip hoist sweep or hip bump sweep. Hips come up really high. As they come up high, I hug, I turn, I go all the way over to this mount position. Practice getting the proper mount high with my hands out, ready to post, ready to go work from mount. So again, we're practicing bottom guard right now. I want to really think of breaking his posture, not allow that guard pass to happen. Anytime he gets that knee in, right, I'm scooting, keeping it tight, okay? From here, you can just practice swimming out, and all I want to do is practice sitting up, hugging this arm. If you know the Kimura, you can lock it up and go from there. Okay, he's still postured up, so I just want to hold this arm. Hand goes down, guard opens, feet go down, pinch with my knees, blast my hips up way to the sky. Only thing that's touching right now is my feet and my hand. As I blast and elevate him with my hips, I turn over, right at the same time, end up in mount. Then I want to secure my mount right away by cupping the head, walking high, trying to elevate or expose those elbows if I can. If you guys are at home right now, you don't have a partner to drill with, or a sibling, or a parent, or whoever, or a teddy bear, I don't care what you drill with, okay? You can do this by yourself, so, sorry, bloopers. So if I do it without Coach Tybor right now, right? I can be here, I sit up, I practice hugging the arm. This is really important to be able to know how to do. To be able to bridge with feet, one hand. You can practice this as a solo drill, both sides. Once I get to here, I need to know how to get my hips so high, and then step over. And then go back to my guard. Up, guard opens, up to my hand, bridge, step over. Okay? Again, from this angle, I'm here, I sit up, practice hugging, guard opens, hand down, bridge my hips, hugging that arm, step over to mount. Don't forget about your 50 squats. We want to see them. Send us a video. Hey kids, jiu-jitsu class. We hope Coach Tybor and I hope that, scratch, okay.
We hope that when you get into side control, you can then progress to side control. This is all going to be very useful in the zombie apocalypse, which is near approaching a rise finally.
Exactly. Don't listen to them, kids. Don't let them scare you.